Hi, I'm Ken, the founder of Inspire Magazine and Inspire University. Today I'm delighted to be talking to Roger Wright. Roger Wright is a humble man. In 2008, Roger set out on a quest to lose weight, get healthy, and eventually run in a Boston Marathon. But not just for himself, for someone he loves. He lost a significant amount of weight and extended his life, all within a relatively short 10-month period, simply by changing his eating and exercise habits. And he also works to spread the message that you can accomplish anything you set your mind to do. Please welcome Roger Wright. Hi, Roger.
Hey, Ken. Thanks very much for having me. I appreciate you reaching out to me.
Yes, right. Mind to talk a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I live in just outside Boston, Massachusetts, eastern part of the United States. I am now 52 years old. Married, been married for 20 years. Live in a relatively small house, and that's pretty much. And I work. Fortunately, I'm able to work out of the house. I do mortgages. I've been doing that for 26 years. And fortunately, working out of the house allows me a lot of freedom to do things. Before it was to eat a lot of food and go visit restaurants and everything, and now it's when I turned 47, I was able to. I decided to change my life and go and do a complete change in my life and exercise, something I've never ever wanted to do. I hated running. I tell people, and I figured it's probably about 30 years when the most I'd run was maybe a quarter of a mile. I loathed running. I loathed exercise, and I liked eating bad. And unfortunately, because of that, I work a lot. I put on a lot of weight. I was heavy my entire life. When I was 10 years old, I went to a store and I said, "What size pants am I?" And I was told I was husky, which is big boy pants. He goes, "They're big boy pants." And so I just continued to be heavy. I was almost 200 pounds in high school. And I'm relatively short, too. I'm only 5'6". So I was pretty stocky. I called myself stocky, not overweight, not fat. So as I got older and I worked, I eventually gained more and more weight. And so in about 2000, I peaked, I went over the 300-pound mark, which I swore that I would never do. And so I remained over 300 pounds until I was 47, maybe 40, right, the January of 2008. I was right around 300 pounds. And I had always gone on numerous diets. I had probably 200 diets, over 200 diets. I had gone to hypnosis. I had gone to Weight Watchers 4 times. I had even gotten to the point where my doctor, who is a holistic doctor, suggested that I look at gastric bypass surgery, so to have my stomach stapled, cut me open, and then my stomach stapled so that I could lose weight. I looked at her and I said, "Really, I'm really kind of surprised that you suggest this. It's a dream of mine. It was a dream of mine because the fact is I was overweight because I didn't like to exercise and I like to eat bad food, and so I looked at this as the easiest way to lose the weight, that I really wouldn't have to do anything. No sacrifice on my part. They'd staple my stomach, it'd be smaller, and I'd lose the weight without even having to worry about anything." Unfortunately, or fortunately, I decided against it. I know 4 people who have had the surgery, and they lost the weight, but then they put the weight back on. For me, I thought there had to have been a better way to do it, and so I left there, and to this day, I'm so happy that I never did have the surgery. I left there, and I thought, well, how am I going to lose the weight? And there's a show here in the United States called The Biggest Loser. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but they have these people that lose all this weight and everything, and in a relatively short amount of time. So I said, well, I have to be realistic about losing the weight, so I'll try to get on that show.
Okay.
And so I then found out in 1 week that this was May of 2008. I found out that A, I didn't make the cut for the show. B, my doctor called me and told me that I was now, in addition to being high cholesterol, morbidly obese, everything else that goes with obesity, I was now also diabetic. And then the third thing that happened that same week is my sister-in-law called me and said, by the way, we're going to be up there. Julia has to go to the hospital, to Children's Hospital. My little niece, Julia, she was 9 at the time. She has cystic fibrosis. And I said she had to go in there. She was on a lung transplant list. 9 years old, going to the hospital. And I said, I was out cooking ribs on the grill, and I thought, you know, I'm never going to get in The Biggest Loser. I may not make it to 50. And I had always had this dream of running the Boston Marathon. My dad ran it when I was 7 years old. And so I said, I'm going to, I can run for the Boston Marathon, raise money for cystic fibrosis. In order to run the Boston Marathon, you have to run for a charity. And so I thought I could raise money for cystic fibrosis, help my niece, the love, showing the love, the lose 50 pounds, and then accomplish a lifelong goal, and make myself healthy in the process. I went inside the house and I told my wife that, and she looked at me, and I never said anything about my weight, and she said, you know, if you do that, she goes, I think it's really, really important. And there was something about it when she said that, and then she said, and you know, if you do that, I'll have a friend at every mile. So I had to find 26 friends. But anyways, that's really what got me started. And so that's when I decided, okay, I can do this. I'm going to commit myself for the next 10 months to train and run the Boston Marathon and drastically change my life. And so eventually that's what I started. That's what I did.
So how many races have you run, and how much have you raised so far?
Okay, I've run. Usually I run a race at least every week or 2 weeks.
Wow.
I run 10Ks and half marathons, but I've run 20 in the 4 years since I ran the Boston Marathon. I've run 24 full marathons. Some of those have been ultra marathons, 31 miles. Some 50 miles. I've got a race at the end of July, which is a race where I run from 7 p.m. until 7 a.m. for 12 hours.
Wow.
And I run around a lake, and my goal is to run 60 miles this year. I have races next week, and so I have a lot of races. I constantly have races just to motivate me, just for something to always, something in front of me to always set a goal on. And that's what happened before. When I was on diets don't work because you set a goal of losing weight. And once you hit that goal weight, then you say, great, I've done it. I'm cured. And now I can eat what I want again. And so you slip down. So you have this yo-yo thing. And that's why people have a yo-yo thing. So for me, it never worked. Diets never worked. And I'm not a big fan of diets. But I think for me, to always have a race out there that I'm constantly training for, I just have to. I mean, I ran 10 and a half miles this morning. It was hot and it hurt, but I feel better about myself, and I know that I'm training for a race, so that I constantly try to get a little bit faster and a little bit faster.
Wow. Okay. And so far, how much have you raised so far?
Oh, yeah. So as far as raising money for cystic fibrosis, over... I would say I had one big fundraiser down in Florida that I helped put on, and when I spoke there, I raised $40,000. And overall, I've raised approximately $100,000 for cystic fibrosis research. That's pretty cool.
Okay. So what can our readers do for Julia?
You know, I don't like asking for donations. That's not... It's great. I always worry that people think that I'm out looking for donations, and I'm not. If they want to donate, they can go to my page and donate.
Mm-hmm.
I constantly have races. I'm trying to raise money for the 2014 Boston Marathon, which I'll be running. Obviously, it's a very big deal here in Boston after the bombings.
Yes, right.
And it will be my 5-year anniversary, so I am raising money for that. But really, what just as important is to help inspire other people to see what I've done and know that they can change their life. That's the most important thing. I'll tell you, the best emails I get are from people who say, I was really touched by your video, and I now realize that I can change my life, and that, you know what, if you could run a marathon, then I can at least run a 5K. And fortunately, I've been very lucky. I have people literally all over the world that contact me, and I constantly go back and forth with emails and encourage them to run. I've got a guy in Australia, so someday I'll have to run a marathon in Australia. I've got a guy down in Florida. I'm doing a marathon in Disney, and so I run marathons now literally all over the world just to help other people, so to help inspire them. I think we all have to give back in the world. I've learned I've learned a lot.
Yeah.
You know, people look at it and they focus on how much weight I've lost, Ken, and maybe people see that I could run 10 yards and now I run marathons. But inside, I learned that, you know what, it's so much more important to give than to take, and so it's really important to do whatever we can to make the world a little bit better place. That's all I really want to do. It changed me. Crossing that finish line in the Boston Marathon in 2009 changed me, but it changed me in so many other ways.
Wow.
Life is really, really good, and you just have to embrace it and do what you can to make it a better life.
Yeah, I agree. So have you ever thought of writing a book about your story?
Now, that's funny you say that.
That's right.
Actually, just by chance, I actually, my wife said, you have to write a book, and I've had a lot of people ask me. And I've actually been, in the last month, been working on the book, and I just got the first chapter, the rough draft of the first chapter just last night. So I am working on a book, and it'll probably be done within the next 6 months.
Wow.
Of course, it'll be called Running for My Existence.
Wow.
There's a lot of stories out there of people that have lost weight,
Yes, right.
and then run marathons. But everyone feels their story is a little unique, and my story is kind of unique. That if you see in the video, you see me running through a cemetery, and a lot of people don't know that actually what happened was that my mom died when I was 1 year old. And just by chance, I had to find a 3-mile course to run to start training. I had to walk it. I couldn't run it. And so I found a 3-mile course, and I had to find a point that was 1.5 miles away, and just by sheer coincidence or maybe something greater, my mom's headstone, her name was Hope, is exactly 1.5 miles from my front door. I've got to believe it's more than just a coincidence. And I never knew my mom, but ironically now I know her much, much better. Plus, my father, he ran the Boston Marathon, and I was supposed to go to medical school, and I chose not to go to medical school. He was very upset with me. But I guess it was a way for me to also tell my father that, you know, to seek his approval for something that I've done, to get back in his good graces. So fortunately that worked.
Okay.
And then also from my wife and everything else. And there's a lot of good stories in there that you really don't see. It's more, as I said, it's more than just some guy that's lost weight and run a marathon, I feel. And a lot of people have actually asked me, have I written a book yet? So it is in the works, and it'll be done probably within the next 6 months.
Okay. So if our readers want to reach you, how can they do that?
So it's really easy. My website is runningformyexistence.com, but that's way too hard to spell.
Okay.
So I got, and people mess up, they don't know how to spell existence.
Okay.
So then I got the abbreviation, which is RFME, running from, so it's rfme.org, and then it's just Roger at rfme.org.
Okay.
So you can go to rfme.org, my website's there, or if you want to email me, I love emails from people that, you know, when people say that they are inspired by my story, they're great. People have no idea how much that motivates me to go out and run and work harder. And so anyway, so my email address is Roger, R-O-G-E-R, at rfme.org.
Wow. Okay. Any final advice for our readers?
Yeah, you know, I'm working this morning. I got up at 5:30 and I went over to this home, his mother. I'm working with I work with different people, and this morning was a 13-year-old, and he's a little heavy. I could see myself in him, and his mother was concerned about his weight, and she obviously knew about my story, and so anyway, I've gone over there twice now. I run over there, and then I walk and then run with him, and he said, the one thing he said today was very interesting. He said, he goes, you know, it really hurts to run. And I said, you know, I go, it's gonna hurt. Yeah. It's not supposed to feel good to exercise. Yeah. When I was 300 pounds, I would go and I would get on, you know, I'd go to health club. I would never get on a treadmill because that was too much thing, but I'd get on like the elliptical trainer and something, and I would work out for really about 10 minutes at a very easy pace. And I thought that, okay, since I'm on there, I can just, you know, I broke a sweat. And once I broke a sweat, I said, that's it. I get to go home. And I started breathing heavy or anything. And that's not the way it is. If you really want to lose weight, you really need to hurt. It's going to hurt. Yes. But I ran 10.5 miles this morning. I came home and my legs were hurting and everything, but I felt bad, but I felt great. I felt good about myself, and I have the rest of the day to recover. And I just, like I said, I just feel good about myself. So when you exercise, it just makes you feel good. So you have to push through. You just really have to push through the pain. Yes. Sir. And the other thing that also is that, you know, Ken, we're all getting older every day. Yes. And I used to say, someday I'm going to run the Boston Marathon. And it took me 47 years to finally say, okay, I'm going to run the Boston Marathon and finally do something. I have a lot of people who say they want to run a marathon and everything, and then they kind of give up. And it's, you only live life once, and you don't know when it's going to end. Yes, right. You don't know what tomorrow's going to bring, unfortunately or fortunately. Yes. So why not just grasp life and do everything you can and just make it, just embrace it. Just have a good time with life. You know, I was sitting on a couch and falling further and further into the couch as I watched TV at night and everything. And that's not the way life is supposed to be. I still watch TV, but you know what? You still need to do something to get yourself to just embrace life. Do something that is a little bit different and make yourself proud. So.
Wow, very good advice. Great advice. Yeah. Yeah,
life is what you make it.
Yes, right. Yeah, I think that's all for the interview. Thanks, Roger. Thanks for your time.
Oh, thank you very much, Ken. And again, if anyone has any questions, I'm happy to train them. Do whatever I can to help them. I want to do anything I can to help other people. So.
Yes. Yeah, thank you very much, Roger.
Great.